Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are thrilled to be here with you. Notice I didn't use the word excited yet. It's probably coming up, but we're thrilled to be here with you today to look at practice sets and to not be telling you it's coming soon, but to be telling you that you may already have access to this today, which is a message we always love to share. So, welcome to Practice Sets Academy. We are so excited that you're here. Google's been working on this product for a long time. We have been promoting it, preparing you for it, and now we're here. This is it. The day has finally arrived, so it's exciting. Jess, can you walk us through what our agenda is going to be for today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start today. We really want to give everybody who's watching kind of a good overview of what we know about practice sets, and then our in-house expert, Amy Store, who has been dedicating so much energy and time as this tool has been developing. She's going to walk us through setting up a practice set, creating them so that you can use them with your own students. I'll talk a little bit about sharing that practice set with other teachers in your domain, and then Amy's going to be able to switch over and show us even that student experience, the student side of practice sets. And then we're going to end up the whole thing kind of rounded out with Amy taking a little bit deeper dive in the insights that you guys can gather from using practice sets with your students. So that's really the piece de resistance, so to speak. It's the thing that makes practice sets, one of the things, I guess, that makes practice sets so amazing for teachers and educators everywhere. So we're kind of going to walk through that, but Amy S is going to be our knight in shining armor today, so to speak.
I like that.
She always is every day. Let's just be honest. Um, so let's just kind of take a minute to appreciate where we've come from. I know that it has been a year of artificial intelligence, and we have not always known what benefit that could be providing us inside the education space, but maybe kind of, fingers crossed, hoping that there will be some. But today, what we're looking at is a product that actually is going to be universally helpful in the classroom. And I don't know as though there's any other form of artificial intelligence that's come down the road and been available as a tool to us as educators that I can say that about, that we don't have to kind of talk about what could go wrong. So this is a great experience that Google has been on a mission to provide for such a long time. And today we're going to be looking at what it is, how it works, and how to make sure you've got it enabled for your school district. And I know there's a lot of Amy's here today. There's two Amy's and only one Jess, but together we're going to help you understand how you can make sure you've got this turned on for your school district if you have these features. Please notice before we move on, there is a URL to slides. For me, it's open this way. I don't know what direction it is for you, but in the top right of the slides that you're looking at, there is a URL there. We're not going to be spending a lot of time in these slides today because this is really going to be demonstration based, where Amy S is going to be actually showing you what this feature looks like in real life. We're not using some special account. This is not, there's no like magic going on behind the scenes. She's literally logged into her account and going to show you what she's seeing and how she's doing all these things in front of you. So it's going to be pretty magical. But make sure you get those slides. You may want to take these back and show someone else. It may help you kind of remember what we've talked about today. And that's the purpose of making sure you have that URL. And before we get started, I just want to say we're from Fried Technology. I'm Amy Mayer. I'm here with my colleagues today, Amy Store and Jess Powell Albright, and we're your tour guides. If you have questions, be sure and ask them in the chat over there, and we will get to them just as soon as we can. All right, Amy Store, what's it all about?
All right, Amy Store here, if I haven't met you before. And if you've met me in any regards when it comes to practice sets, you know how much I love them. And so I'm really excited. Look, there's that word again. I'm really, really excited to share with you some more details about it and how to get started. And hopefully you leave here with some inspiration to jump right in, or hopefully get access to it soon. So let's start here with what is Practice Sets. So Practice Sets is a really cool, amazing feature. It's a brand new feature in Google Classroom that allows teachers to turn their existing content that they have, turn it into engaging and interactive tasks. Teachers are able to automate grading, spot concepts that might need to be reviewed, and also give students some built-in supports as they work through the practice sets. We're going to start with just a little bit of a glance into insights, but we're going to go into a deeper dive a little bit later. But this is one of the coolest parts of practice sets are going to be the insights that educators can gain once students turn in a practice set. And they're magical. And I mean that when I say they're magical, because it's such a time saver for students. I think all of us on this call and those of us in the audience can agree that grading is not always the most exciting thing to do as a teacher, right? It's not the most exciting thing. I know when I was a teacher, I would take my backpack home or my teacher bag home full of papers to grade. And where did those typically stay? On the floor in my bedroom.
That's where they belong all weekend until you carry them back to school on Monday.
Yes, until the next week, exactly. But these insights are going to help educators so much and definitely make that grading worth it. So all those piles of papers that you have on your desks or in your teacher bags, gone. With these insights, educators are able to see some performance trends when they take a look at this Google Classroom grader view. And that's going to show them which students are struggling, which students are persevering, how many attempts they took, when they've used the notepad or the inking tool, which we'll talk about more in just a little bit. So that's pretty awesome, right? I know you probably want to learn a little bit more about that, but it's coming soon. So stay tuned. At the end of our talk today, we're going to loop back to our insights to give you more of a closer look into those a little bit later.
All right, is it my time to steal the show? The thing that everyone wants to talk about, which is teacher verification. So it's really important to know this, because what we don't want to happen to you is we don't want you to go back and you get, hopefully you get really excited by what we show you today, and then you go back and you can't actually see these features. So we want to make sure you have the knowledge, the information that's required, so that you're going to be able to get this in your very own account, and that you have some tools if something doesn't go right for you. So on the slides that Amy has been showing you, that I encouraged you to get the URL to, and those will be back in just a minute. If you didn't catch that URL, you'll still be able to grab that. But on these slides, you're going to see a link to the support document that I have pulled up right now. So in order to use practice sets, you have to have your account verified. So you have to be a teacher. And in order to share practice sets with other people, you have to be verified as a teacher. And this is so important, because we don't want to be redoing work that someone else has already done. So the goal and the vision here is that, if I'm a member of a department, or I may be in a school district, some of you guys are in school districts where there are hundreds of other people who teach what you teach. Ideally, you should be able to share all of those practice sets that you make with all your colleagues, and they should be able to do the same with you. And I think that's a super intriguing idea. In order to make that workflow happen, you're going to have to make sure that you are a verified teacher and that you see all of the features that you need to see. So let's just look at really quickly what this looks like. I know if you're here today as a teacher, you're not going into the Google Admin Console to look at Groups for Business, but I just want you to see what this looks like, because I think a lot of times as educators, we kind of wonder, like, why isn't this set up right? Why can't I see it? And how hard is it going to be for someone to actually do it and make it happen? Well, it's not going to be a difficult process. Somebody just needs to know that you're not seeing what you should be seeing. So if your school district has a Google domain that has Plus services, and you have been assigned a license, if you are using Google Classroom and you are creating Google Classrooms, then you've already got part of this work done. And that means that Groups for Business is on in your domain, and you have been verified as a member of a special group that is called Classroom Teachers. This group is automatically created in your domain, and you might remember a long time ago, if you logged into Google Classroom a long time ago, you got a question that popped up, and I used to when I was working with teachers, when Google Classroom came out, I would be so nervous. I would tell them, like, when they walk through the door, don't click anything until I look over your shoulder, because sometimes people would come into my classroom. I was their teacher that day, and that screen popped up and it said, are you a teacher or are you a student? And Jess, what did they do when they saw that message?
I don't know. They chose I'm a student because they were in my
They
group.
chose I'm a student because I was their teacher that day, and they
Yep.
were such nice people and they were trying to do the right thing. Once they clicked that, though, they weren't able to form classrooms in Google Classroom until somebody on the admin side put them into the classroom teachers group. So hopefully those problems have all been worked out by now. Google has come up with amazing ways to make sure the right people are in the right groups. But let's look at our very own domain. So Babs Mayer, is a very important employee here at Fried Tech, and she needs to be able to share practice sets with others, but she is not a verified teacher yet. So when I go in here and I see that Babs has requested to be a teacher, I have some options. I can approve everybody who's requested, or I can just approve Babs. Now, if Babs needs to share practice sets with others, by the way, Babs is my dog, just in case you didn't know that.
She is the most dedicated employee at Fried Technology.
She is. She's super dedicated. She loves her position. She's right over in her chair right now. And now she will also be able to create and share practice sets, create Google Classrooms, and all that other cool stuff. So this is what it looks like. Why does this matter to you, and why are we talking about this to you? Because if you know that your school district has Plus and you're not seeing the features and you're a teacher, that's probably not as designed. So I'm giving you a couple of resources today. And when we move back to Amy Stoer's slides, you'll be able to see where to click to get these. One of these is a letter letting whoever your tech director or system admin is in your district know that you are not seeing Plus features and you think you should be. So what you can do with this, you can just click on the link. You'll get a template link. You'll be able to pull a copy of this letter. We've made everything in here pink that you would need to replace or change. And this just lets someone know that you may be able to access these features if they give you a Plus account, if they assign a license to you, is the verbiage that you would want to use. So you don't have to figure that out, though. It's all in this little letter right here. So if you need an email template to send to your tech director and say, hey, I want these features, this is the letter you can send asking for the Plus license. Now, once you get the Plus license, though, you also need to be a verified teacher. So if you see some signs that you might not be a verified teacher, like you can't create Google Classrooms or you can't share practice sets, then this is the letter that you would want to use for that particular issue. So first, we make sure we've got the Plus license. And you can check that by checking to see if you have noise cancellation in Google Meet. If you go to meet.google.com, start a new Meet, just look at the features inside there. You want to see noise cancellation as a feature. If you see that, you don't need this letter. You've already got a Plus license assigned to you. But if you go to Google Classroom and you still can't do things that you need to do, then this is the letter that you want. And can we switch back over to Amy's slides now? Because I want to show you where you pull these two different letters should you decide that you need them. And did I miss anything, Jess, Amy S?
Nope, great job.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just fishing for compliments, so thanks for that. That really worked out well for me. All right, and as you can see back on Amy S's screen, those little envelopes, little white envelopes out there to the right, that's where you click to get the template letters, and then those words that are underlined on the left, that's where you go to look at the documentation that tells you what the steps are to make these features be apparent to you. So we just want to make sure you're set up for success. Hopefully this doesn't impact most of you guys. Your districts have this automated, but if it does, now you know what to do.
So I keep seeing in the questions that folks are passing through the chat. It is practice sets are available to folks who have the teaching and learning account or a Google Workspace Plus account, Google Workspace for Education Plus account. So it's not part of the fundamentals package.
Thanks for clarifying that, Jess. So yes, if your school district has either of those licenses, then you should be able to use these features. And if you can't, your district will want to know because they want you to be able to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look back at the third, fourth, fifth slide, there's some banners in the bottom left-hand corner that I forgot to mention, so I apologize, but that lets you know which you need to have to access these.
Great.
All right.
All right. Let's do this. Let's do this, Amy S. I'm ready to actually look at this feature. I feel like we've been building this up for about 9 months now.
Right. All right. So we're going to start here at how you can leverage practice sets for learning in your classroom. Now that you have a better understanding about what they are and also how to get set up, those letters are so useful if you need them. Let's jump into the creation part of practice sets, probably one of my favorite pieces. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides at the beginning, and then there will be a few after. Just know that in just a bit, I'm going to jump into direct demo mode, but all the following slides that you see here, there's support for you beyond today's webinar. That way you can go back and you can see possibly some diagrams, some informational pieces to help you get started if you need a bit of a refresher. All right, so first things first, where can you find practice sets? And prior to last week, I would have said 2 places, but guess what? There are now 3 places where you can find practice sets. Yes, it was a very pleasant surprise to me as well. So if you are here on your landing page or the dashboard where all of your classrooms are located, you will see it right here at the top. If you click on practice sets, it's going to take you to your practice sets library. If you have not created a practice set yet, your space here will be empty until you do create. You can also find practice sets by going to the hamburger, the 3 lines in the top left-hand corner, and you'll see a section that says practice sets as well. It looks just like this. And you can also access practice sets when you are assigning. So if I go into my classroom, Fried Tech Elementary, and I go into classwork, and I click on create assignment, just like you would normally do in Google Classroom. Once you have access, you will see practice sets as an option here, and we'll jump back into what this looks like a little bit later. But those are the 3 places where you can access your practice sets. We're actually going to access it for demo purposes by utilizing the hamburger right here. All right. All right, so I'm going to show you this next slide real quick. And then, like I said, the following slides that you're going to see are just support slides for you after I go through this demo. What you see here are just some of the different pieces, tools, features that you can use to start building, as well as the rest of the slides that you see here as well. But let's create. Okay, so I'm going to create an assignment. Actually, I'm going to go to my hamburger and do practice sets. We'll do an assignment in just a little bit. Here's my hub or my library of practice sets that I've previously created, and I want to create a brand new one. So I'm going to click on the button in the top left-hand corner that says create. And before we actually get into the creation piece of this, I do want to guide your attention to the settings gear up here in the top right-hand corner. It's just a couple of settings, but it's worth it to jump into it prior to creating or even as you go. And there's just a couple of them there. And one of them relates to allowing equivalent answers. So if you have a fractions question or a decimal question, would you like to allow equivalent ones? If you do, you want to go ahead and check that box. What about capitalization? You can keep that checked if you would like to ignore it, and it gives you some examples right below about what that means. Okay, so go to that gear. Once you know what kind of practice set you're building, go to that settings gear and make some adjustments as needed. All right, I'm going to click save. And we want to show you a variety of question types, a variety of content. So I'm going to do a practice set that's called Week 7 Review, and we're going to do a variety. All right, the first thing that I want to show you is this plus sign over here on the right-hand corner, and this is your insert content button. And you've got 3 options: new question, text, and import. You'll also see that down here below as well. They do the exact same thing. What I love about the flow of practice sets is if you're familiar with Google Forms already, it makes it really easy to jump into practice sets and to start creating. For the first piece, I'm actually going to add in some text, and I'm going to give my students some encouraging words. And I have it over here. Let me copy it and paste it. There we go. So I'm going to give my students some encouraging words. Do the best you can. Don't forget to use the hints when needed. That's going to be at the very top, and they'll be able to see that before they start working through the practice set. All right, so now let's look at some different question types. If you look over here, it starts with question 1, and you're going to have a pull down menu over here on the right-hand side that shows you the 4 different types of questions that you can add into a practice set. You'll also notice that 3 of them have the word auto next to them, and that means that those particular types of questions can be auto graded. If you do a question that is a paragraph type question, you as a teacher will have to go in and mark it correct or incorrect, and we'll show that to you a little bit later when we jump into insights. I'm actually going to start with short answer, and I'm going to do a math question. Love me some math. I'm a former math and science teacher. All right, there we go. Use estimation to solve 73 plus 12. Now, since it's a math question, I'm also going to show you the really neat, really cool mathematical keyboard. To show you that, let's type in our answer first. So since this is short answer, you're going to need to put the answer or maybe the different types of answers that students could possibly enter here. So the correct answer is 80. You may have some students that actually maybe type the actual word 80. So add that as a correct answer as well. So you can put multiple answers here. I know I did a practice one recently where a city and a state was an answer, and I put the city, comma, full spelling of the state, but I also included city, comma, and the state abbreviation. So just think about maybe the different types of answers your students might use. Now, let me show you this mathematical keyboard, which not only do you have access to as a teacher, but so do your students. When you click on this keyboard, let me do it again. There we go. Let me type in 80. When you click on the keyboard itself, it's going to bring it up your keyboard down from the bottom. And the one thing that I do want to point out are these little blue flags that you see in the top right-hand corner. That just means that that particular button on that keyboard has more of a menu to choose from. So if I clicked on this one, you would see I have more options to choose from. Same here, these are your exponents. I love the fraction piece of this keyboard. I know back in the day when I would try to make fractions on a Google Doc or another sort of document, I would have to try to figure out how to position the numbers. This makes it so much easier. So utilize that keyboard. You can as a teacher, and so can your students. All right, so there's my question. I have plugged in my answer. I can also put in additional answers if needed as well. Let me turn that off. There we go. Now, once you put in your question and your answers, what you'll notice right below there is you're going to see a section that says skills, and it says see suggested. Based on what you put as your question, what they are using here in practice sets, what this particular tool is using is it's using an AI-powered feature that is actually locating support materials for students. Isn't that neat? Like, they're doing that work for you. Support materials such as videos, infographics. I like to think of it like digital anchor charts. So I'm going to click on See Suggested, and let's see how the AI did. And looky there, it is suggested based on my question, estimate using rounding. I like it. I think that's going to work. Now, once you do that, this light bulb right here is going to start to glow. That means this problem now has built-in hints and resources for students. When we preview as a student in a little bit, you'll be able to see what this looks like in action. I can even add additional support materials if I wanted to as well. So I'm going to just type in the word rounding, and let's see what pops up. Estimate answers with mental computation and rounding. Love it. We're going to add that there too. Okay, and that's all you do. You add your question, choose your question type, add in your answers, and then attach some skills, and then rinse and repeat. Keep adding your questions as you go. So that's a math example. Yes, I see a question about the import. I'm going to show you the import, I promise. That's the last piece. That's a pretty cool one.
Now, Amy, those skills that are being suggested there, that's part of the AI component, right? So it's going to keep growing and keep learning and keep indexing based on information that's going to be gathered on the web. So it's going to be something that's continually improving. We get a lot of questions about, can you add your own there? Can you import your own text there? And right now, whatever it suggests is what's available, but it is growing constantly. So the more users who are using it, the more we're going to see things change.
Awesome. Yep. All right. So let's jump into another question type. And I promise I'm going to get to import, specifically importing PDFs. That's the big piece there, importing PDFs. All right, so new question. This one, let's do a science one. Who loves science? I love science. My entire team knows how much I love science. Specifically food chains. And guess what? This is a question about food chains. So for this one, I'm going to do single select. Just know there's also a multi-select option, which just means you'll have more than one answer as a correct answer. But I'm going to go with single select here. And let's just type in some answer choices. Decomposer. Not a bad producer. Let's see, primary, consumer, and secondary.
Breakfast ruiner.
Secondary, consumer. All right, there we go. Okay, so once you put in your answer choices for your multiple choice question, you're then going to have to indicate the correct one. Just like what we did up here with our short answer, we put it in the space right here. For your multiple choice, you're just going to click the radio dial that's right next to it, and that indicates that that is the correct answer. Okay, and once again, once you put in a question, type in your answers, your skills are going to, you'll see that C suggested kind of highlight. And if that, for some reason, that C suggested doesn't highlight, you can still search if needed. But here's the suggestions. So I'm going to click the one that I think will go best with that and then continue to move on as well. So that was a math example. You saw it pulled in some math resources. It pulled in some science resources. But what about language arts and what about social studies? Let's see. So I'm going to do a new question again. This one is going to be all about poetry. I know Miss Amy Mayer was a language arts teacher, right?
I think I'm going to get this one right. Didn't have a lot of hope on the other ones, but I'm feeling better about this.
So there's my question. I'm going to do single select again, and then I'm going to type in the answer. So stanza, rhyme, meter, and verse. What do you think it is, Miss Amy Mayer?
Why do you put me on the spot like this? I thought I had it, but I think it's a stanza.
You are correct. Nice job. It is stanza.
God, the stress.
All right. Now you see here, nothing popped up, but it's no fear, no worries. I'm going to type in stanza and let's see what happens. Oh, let's spell it correctly. Stanza. There we go. And it's going to give you a few different options to choose from. I like that one, so we're going to stick with that. Once again, that light bulb is going to illuminate, which lets you know that a skill or a resource has been attached to this particular practice set.
And Amy, you just showcased something that we saw a couple of questions on in the chat. And I just wanted to point it out. Like if you want to preview the resource that's attached to it, you can always click on the try as student button, which I know Amy will go through later. But the question is, can I preview that stuff before I assign it to make sure it's helpful? And the answer to that is absolutely you can. You just don't do it right this second. You do it when you go view the practice set as a student.
Yep, exactly. Thank you, Jess. Yep, try as a student, which we'll jump into in just a bit. All right, let's do a social studies example, and then I'm going to show you how to import specifically a PDF. So I'm going to do new question. This time it's going to be paragraph, and this is going to be, what is the purpose of a compass rose?
Don't ask me that question. My answer.
Now you'll notice here too, right below it, since I chose paragraph, it says, for me, you'll be able to grade the answer after it's turned in. So as a teacher, this one's not auto-graded. You will have to grade this when you go in and look at the insights, which we'll look at in just a bit. All right, so C suggested. All right, let's see. I'm actually going to type in compass rose because I know I saw something. Yep, there you go. Explain basic map elements. Love it. I'm going to click here, and there we go. Once again, you can continue to add if you wanted to as well. All right, so that's how to add questions. Like I said, if you're familiar with Google Forms, this is going to seem very familiar to you. It'll make it very user-friendly. It's super similar. The last type of question that I want to show you is about how to import. And this is a really great component to practice sets because it allows teachers the ability to reuse content, specifically PDFs, and that's another big time saver for teachers. I know as a teacher, I had a lot of PDFs that I used with students or documents as well, but you want to make sure that it's a PDF. So I have some PDFs saved in my Google Drive, and when I click on import, it's going to default and pull up my recent, which I love because the most recent PDF that I would like to use for these purposes are going to pop up here first. All right, so I'm going to click on test prep and then click import. Okay, this is going to populate here. This actually comes from some released test questions here in the state of Texas. And you'll see up here, it gives you some instructions. It says select each problem that you want to import. So you could do multiple problems if needed. I'm just going to show you one. It's pretty user-friendly like the rest of it. So I'm going to select. So click and drag. I call this hugging the problem. And let's say that I actually want to take out the number 6. I can select it all, but still readjust these boxes or these corners, just like that. And you could actually leave the answer choices out, but I'm going to teach you a little trick, a little time-saving trick for this part for when it comes to importing. So I've selected this. You could select multiple if you want. You do the exact same thing, click and drag. And then when you're ready, it says one is selected. You're going to click import questions. And looky there.
Wow.
I didn't have to type anything, copy and paste. It's all there, ready to go.
That was smooth, Store.
Yes.
So good. There are questions about the blurriness of PDFs and pulling in PDFs that are low resolution. So, this tool is continually growing and it's continually improving. So at this time, I don't believe there's any mechanism built in that's going to allow you to adjust resolution or anything like that. I think you're just going to have to trial and error until you get it, just how you need it in terms of how blurry it might be. But don't forget about that question mark in the bottom left corner where you can leave feedback for the folks at Google who are developing this tool, and you can ask for help or maybe make a suggestion. So reporting an issue for practice sets is a great way to get started with some of these suggestions I'm seeing in the chat about how it would really improve your experience if it did X, Y, or Z. So definitely check that out.
Awesome. I'm going to do multiple choice for this, and let me show you a way to quickly do this, save some time. Is you could type these answer choices in if you wanted to, or just type in F, G, H, J, and then the students will know based on the answer they see above which one to choose below as well. Once again, indicate the answer that is correct. Add some resources.
That's really smart. That's a good idea.
All about saving time. Add some resources. There's that light bulb illuminating, and you are good to go. Now, we're going to show you the try as a student in just a bit, but I would encourage you, as you're building, as you're creating, click the try as a student button just to see how it looks as your students, because let me show you the assigning part. This is an important piece. I'm going to click on done editing for now. I'm going to come back in
a second.
Yeah,
Amy,
sure.
let's sidebar just real fast, because you just mentioned the skills. So I just want to say, before you feel like, because if I were a teacher and I were looking at this, especially if I were an elementary school teacher, I would be feeling a lot of pressure to, oh my gosh, I better go view every single thing I do in here as a student, and I better look at every single thing that's linked here, because if I don't and students end up seeing something that they shouldn't see, I will feel responsible for that. So I just wonder if there could be people kind of sitting with the burden of that. So I want to say this right now, if that's the position you're in. The resources that students see have gone through a screening process already. So while I understand, like, you feel that great burden on your own shoulders, do know that that has already happened. The flashcards were created by teachers. The videos are filtered. And there has been a lot of testing that has already gone on at Google, and to make sure that everything students see down there is relevant and safe. So I want to say that and kind of maybe decrease that cognitive load that you may be feeling right now before we even move on.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so I'm going to click on done editing. I promise I'm going to come back for try as a student in a bit, but I want to show you the assigning piece just to amplify the importance of trying as a student as you go before assigning. I assigned recently to some of my colleagues and found a mistake, and you're going to see why I should have tried it as a student before I assigned it. So I'm going to click on Done Editing. All right. And this time I'm actually going to go back into my classroom and I'm going to assign. So classwork, create, assignment, just like you would assign anything in Classroom. Let's do week 7 review. And then when I click on practice sets down here in the bottom in my attach area, I can now select the practice set that I would like to attach. And here's the important note. When you attach a practice set to an assignment in Google Classroom, you're attaching a snapshot of that practice set. That means that once you assign it out, you cannot edit the practice set.
But I could go edit it for next period.
Yes.
And it's not going to change the one I've already assigned.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to edit a practice set that's already been assigned to students, you'll have to delete the assignment, edit the original, and then create a new assignment again and attach it. So just a little disclaimer for that. Why we encourage you to try as a student as you go is when you attach it, just remember that little piece about it being a snapshot of it. And if you need to edit it, you'll have to start kind of all back over.
So we have like the most engaged group I've ever had on any of our webinars ever. And you guys are asking us such great questions. And I just want you guys to know we're trying to organize when we're going to answer them. Sometimes the answers are going to be presented in the presentation. So we're waiting to get to those before we jump into them. And sometimes the answers are questions are really great questions that perhaps are not on our agenda to talk about. So we're just kind of gathering resources for you. So don't be frustrated if I've seen a few of you ask the same question a couple of times. We're looking at answers to give to you. So you guys have such great questions. I'm really interested
I'm sort of glad I can't see all that. I feel kind of overwhelmed thinking about it. So
they have great questions. Yeah.
Thanks for looking at that, Jess.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that the Googlers are also paying attention to it, and they're recording questions so they can make sure the answers are provided. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. All right, so when I'm here, click attach. Done, ready to go. There it is. You can add some optional instructions here. You can choose to assign to all of your students, or you can assign to individual. So it helps to personalize that learning as well. You can adjust the points here, due date, etc. All things that you are familiar with if you're familiar with Google Classroom. Okay.
I dare you to assign that to Courtney right now and then have somebody text her on the side and be like, we're all sitting, there's like 3,000 people right now waiting for you to do your work. So like,
there we go, assigned. Oh, that's funny. All right, so that is how to create questions, add in different question types, select your different answers. Like I stated earlier, the remaining slides that you see behind this particular section is a review of what I just did with you. So these are there for you if you need it. I know I've noticed a couple of questions about the link. I know Jess has addressed it as well. Don't forget the link to today's slide deck is up here in the top right-hand corner of all of our slides. Okay, so these are just going to be some review slides. I have to ask
you another question.
Yes.
All right. So let's say that my whole situation really needed to have a picture attached. But when you went to the import button, I didn't see a way to do that. So that's not what import means right now. As of today, import means PDF, right?
PDFs. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay. If I wanted to trick it and I wanted to get a picture in there, is there any way I could do that?
I bet you could save it as a PDF.
I think I could, and I haven't tried it yet, but
me either, yeah.
that would be possible. But right now, what import means is you've got a PDF and you want to put it in here. So if you wanted to use a process where you make a Google Doc and you put your stuff in there and then you export it out as a PDF, can you see any reason why I couldn't draw the box over whatever part of that PDF I wanted to have be in practice sets?
Yeah. Any piece of that PDF, you can take a screenshot, or it seems like a screenshot. Yeah, a little grab. Okay. Yeah.
And import does not mean, so import, just to clarify, because I think I know what you're talking about, but import also does not mean you can pull in Google Forms. Even though these are similar types of tools, right now, what I understand is forms and practice sets do not talk to each other right now. And so you wouldn't be able to pull in questions or anything like that. Is that right?
Yeah, just PDFs. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I told you we got a really engaged audience.
I know. And I did see a question about organizing things into folders, and I don't think that's an option now, but man, what a great idea. So click that question mark and suggest it, because I think it was Paul. Love it. Love it, love it. All right, so once again, these slides after that particular piece that I just demoed, those are going to be support slides for you. All right, so now my buddy Jessica is going to walk you through how to share a practice set with another teacher.
I'm so glad I'm your buddy. So if you, there you go. So guys, there are a couple of different ways, and Amy, you're just going to drive for me if you don't mind. There's a couple of ways to share. With any Google tool, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, so to speak. Although I would never advocate for that. However, you can definitely do the sharing of a lesson or a practice set with your folks a couple of ways. Now, let me just remind you all, you have to first be a verified teacher in the domain, and the person that you're trying to share with has to be currently in your organization, in your domain. That does not mean you have to be on the same campus, so to speak. It's going to be by domain. So I wouldn't be able to share something that I created with one of my colleagues that works at one of my old schools in a different district. Currently, all I would be able to share a practice set with is somebody who's in the Fried Technology domain. And that's going to be the same across the board for any domains that are in the EDU space, for right now anyway. So double check on that. Okay, so the first thing is, if you wanted to start, there's, like I said, a couple of ways. We'll start just by looking at the practice set, kind of our catalog of practice sets. So when Amy clicked on the hamburger in the top left corner and she went to practice sets, and she sees all of the practice sets that are living and existing in her catalog, in her little repository. To share one is pretty simple. Just hover over one of your practice sets, and the top corner, you see the 3 dots. Those are the little etc. button. So click on that, and you're going to see a few options, and one of which is share a link. So go ahead and select that one, Amy. And by default, link sharing is off. So right now, my practice set's only for me and my students to utilize. But if I turn on link sharing, so Amy, click that button. Now it allows me to copy the link. So this is a pretty bare bones way of doing it. I first turn on the link sharing, then I copy the link using the button right there on the screen. And then I can do something like chat it or email it to my colleagues who want to utilize it. And then they're going to be able to open that link, and then they'll be able to utilize that practice set. They're going to get their own copy of that practice set. So they won't be using mine. Their data is not going to transfer over into my students' data, but they're going to be able to use my practice set that I created. So that's one really simple way of sharing a practice set. There is a second way that I want to show you. So if Amy and I, and the two Amy's and I are all in a class, maybe I taught middle school English, so maybe we're all the English department, and we want to divide the labor up a little bit. And Amy Mayer is going to do the poetry section because she knows the most about stanzas, and Amy Storr is going to do and Amy Storr is going to do the practice set about, I don't know, characterization, because she knows most about that. Then what we can do is we can all be in the same Google Classroom together as co-teachers. So that's a great starting point. We're all in the classroom together. We share resources. And so if that's the case, if we're all co-teachers in that classroom together, and we make our practice sets from that classroom and we assign them in that classroom as classwork, that's an easy way for Amy. Then Amy Mayer or Amy Storr can go into their own classes that I'm not a part of. They can go to create, reuse post, and they can choose from our shared classroom. She might have to go backwards and select a class that we're co-teachers in or something, but she can go to one of the classes where practice sets exist, the one that we made together, and then she can reuse that post. Now, I always select create new copies of all attachments, and then I click reuse. That's just my default setting there. And click reuse. And so now that practice set is now going to be imported into that assignment, and it's going to show up in her class. So that's the key there. So the two ways, just to recap, the one way you can do it is by going directly to your practice set repository and using the link sharing option to share the practice set with a colleague. You'll have to put that link somewhere else, to like an email or a text or something. And the second way is to all be in a collaborative space, like a shared classroom. And then you can just use that reuse post option to then share a lesson or use a lesson that's been shared with the team.
So Jess, if you were in a school district, let's say you were a middle school English teacher in a school district, and you were going to a meeting of all the other middle school teachers of your subject area, would you advocate for there being a classroom for the purpose of sharing resources with each other that there are no students in? So it's a classroom, but everybody is a teacher?
Yes, I think there's a limit to how many co-teachers you can put in a class. So I might even say, hey, let's have a classroom with all the department leads in it. And then those department leads can have their own classrooms with all their staff in it. That might make it really easy. So limit the amount of people. But yeah, I would definitely advocate for that. It's a great way to share assignments, to share resources, just not have to reinvent the wheel if somebody else has already done some of that work.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
All right. Thanks for sharing that, Jess, how to share practice sets. All right. Who wants to know what the student experience looks like? This is a good one. So you get to see exactly what it looks like for students. And like we showed you earlier, when you are as you're building your practice set, we highly encourage you to try as a student as you go. And that's how we're going to show you what it looks like as a student now. Just know from the student view, they're going to have a turn in button in the top right-hand corner. That's where they're going to turn in the practice set to you. All right, so this is the week 7 review that we just worked on earlier. I'm going to click on try as a student. It's going to load it here on our screen. It gives you this little banner at the top that tells you that you're in student view, and I'm going to click dismiss. Before we actually answer some questions, let me show you what's on the screen kind of around the practice set area. There's an extra help button at the top right-hand corner. And this is going to show you the different support materials that are here for students. I like to think of this almost like a digital interactive notebook. Like I know when I was a math teacher, my students would build interactive notebooks using actual composition books or spirals. And this is their guide on the side. They're friendly pals to help them work through these practice sets. So that's going to be there in the extra help section. The students will also see these as they go, which you'll see in action in just a bit. Over here on the left-hand side, you will see an inking button, and that's going to turn on space so students can actually sketch to show what they know. I was in another webinar about practice sets recently, and the lady had said it was inking for thinking. It was something like that. It was brilliant. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but it was pretty awesome. So there's the inking tool there. You can also turn it off. And then this little area to the left, these are all the questions. So as a student, I could skip through and work on the questions I want to work on first, go back to others I want to focus on towards the end if needed. So they're able to kind of go through their questions from that space as well. All right, so let's answer some questions and see how this looks. All right, so use estimation to solve. I have a great teacher. Her name is Ms. Storr. I know the answer is 80. I could type in 80 here if I wanted to, or I could click on my keyboard as a student, and I could actually select the number there from the keypad. Now, of course, if you're a math teacher, you want your students to show their work. So down here at the bottom, there's a show your work area. Now, this is where they could show their work by typing, but you could also switch this to inking as well. So students could come in here. Let's see how great I am with doing this with my mouse. Not bad. Hey, pretty good. All right. The 8's going to be my tricky one.
I've been waiting this whole time to find out how the answer is not 85. So thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
Definitely would have gotten that wrong.
Another thing I love about this inking area is you see this little faint blue bar right there. You can actually make it a little bit larger if needed, like almost like a never-ending canvas. I'm not sure if it's never-ending, but it gets to be a pretty nice size. All right. And then as a student, once I'm ready, I've shown my work, I have my answer. Let's see how I'm doing. I'm going to click the check button. Looky there, got it correct. Another thing that typically pops up, and I'm hoping it pops up eventually as we go through, are these animojis. They're animated emojis, and it's like a guy showing or someone showing their muscles. A positive affirmation graphic is going to pop up for students, and it will pop up once they get it correct. Okay. Now, because I got it correct, this light bulb did not illuminate. This light bulb's going to illuminate when that student needs a resource or some hints or some support. Okay.
Now, Amy, let me ask you something about that. This is a question from Miriam, who's here attending live today. So what if I've assigned this practice set to Courtney, and I want her to have certain resources? Is that an option that I can push through here, or does everybody get the same ones? How does it know who to give the resource to and when?
So the extra help, these are based on the suggested skills that we attached as we were building. So as you're attaching those skills, that builds that library for the students. All of them are going to pop up here on the right-hand side, but they will be individualized by question if that light bulb illuminates.
Okay, so if my student Courtney gets this question wrong instead of right,
Mhm.
that is what's going to kick off the process of, hey, Courtney, here's your light bulb. But then she is going to see a lot of different resources based on how we have basically tagged this question. And she's going to be able to access the one that she feels is meaningful to her, or she can go through all of them, right?
Yep. She'll have access to all of them right here. Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
And one more question, and I know the answer to this one. I'm real proud of myself. I asked Jess yesterday, which is how I know. So Jess, I'm going to ask you again today. And don't be blaming me later for coming up with questions during the webinar, because I did preview this one. I said to Jess, I'm looking for this practice set inside Google Drive and I can't find it. And she says to me,
Practice sets live in your Google Classroom, and that's where you'll access them. So
Yep.
we have seen that question come through quite a few times on the chat, and we hear all your suggestions. Again, utilize that question mark in the bottom left corner to let Google know that stuff. But at this time, currently, your practice sets that you create or you have a copy of are only going to be available to you from within Google Classroom under the practice sets catalog, or when you go to create a post.
Yep.
I would say this sentence: practice sets are part of Google Classroom.
They are.
Right?
You're,
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
practice set is not its own thing. It's a feature
Right.
of Google Classroom.
Yes, that is what we have come to realize. Yeah.
All right. Now, as much as I don't want to, let's answer some questions wrong. All right. Especially a science question. I'm a former science teacher, but I'm going to answer it wrong. So this one's about mold in a food chain. I think it's a producer. Mold can be green, right? So maybe it's a producer. Once again, you can show your work. And when you show your work, you could use a stylus if you wanted to. You could type, you could sketch. And guess what? When we look at insights in just a bit, your teacher can see this, the inking while thinking, or the thinking while inking. The teacher can see it in the insights. I know I saw a question about that earlier. All right, so I'm going to click on check. Uh-oh. Try again. All right, so once that happens, this light bulb's going to start to illuminate, which makes my eye go directly there because I can see it blinking. When I click the light bulb, whatever material or resource it attached is going to pop up here. Once again, it's like a digital anchor chart. And so as a student, I can look at this resource, maybe even look at some of my stuff in my physical interactive notebook, and now I can try again. All right, so I looked over it. Okay, now I know what it is. The answer is Decomposer. I'm going to click on Decomposer, click check.
Do you know how much that hurt her to pick that wrong answer? That was so hard.
It was hard. It was very, very hard. And once again, when you get it correct, a really cool Animoji should pop up. Like I said, you know, showing the muscle, something positive should pop up in the space right here. All right, so let's answer these next few, and then we're going to jump into insights before we wrap up. I know it's stanza because Amy Mayer told me.
Oof,
I'm going to click
with
check.
a lot of trepidation, but
There we go. Oh, looky there. There it is.
there it is.
Okay. And then here's that paragraph one. I'm going to turn my inking off because I would actually like to type this.
So wait, you just showed something. You can keep the inking on paragraphs, so you can draw on a paragraph response. Okay, that question came through the chat, and I actually was like, I don't know the answer to that. So now we do.
Yep. And I turned it on earlier, so it stayed on. So if you click it, it's going to turn off, and this will turn into a text box for you to type in. 4 directions. I will say, when Jess answered this question last week, she put, because it smells good, or it smells nice.
I had no idea.
All right, and here is the PDF import that we did. It puts a little bit of empty space here, but that's fine. I know the answer is going to be F. Click check. And I'm answering the rest of these correctly so you can see what happens in just a second. Once the student, oh, look at that. Oh, that's a cool one. Once the students get all of the questions correct, even after multiple attempts, which you as a teacher can find out those attempts as well, the confetti is going to fall. And then they'll click the turn in button that they have in the top right-hand corner. You will see that turn in button, a picture of that. If you keep going through, look at that being backwards. That's fun. That's all my fault. You'll see a turn in button top right-hand corner, and that's where students will turn in their work. And that is the student experience. Any questions we should address before we close out with insights, which is powerful stuff? All good?
I don't think so. I think we're looking pretty good. I'm still stuck on the backward image, which
image, right?
Which I will fix for you because it messed with my brain there for a minute. But I know what to do now. It's all good.
All right, so let's jump back into our classroom and let's address insights. Let's wrap up and loop back to those insights. So with practice sets, educators are able to gain some really powerful, meaningful insights to help them know which concepts might need more instruction time, if it's good to move on. It'll give them some performance trends and insights to also help teachers shape and build their future lessons. They're able to identify concepts really quickly that need more instruction time and also identify which students need some extra support. So let's see that in action. I'm going to click on grades, top right hand corner of my classroom. And here's my students right here. You'll notice that what you see here in green has been turned in. I've got one particular assignment that's been graded. And you'll notice here too, my friend Chantel, she has been assigned this, but has not necessarily turned it in. But the cool thing is, Chantel, I know. If you click on these three dots, you can actually view her submission, and you can see that Chantel has begun working, has completed the work. She just forgot to press the turn in button. So maybe that's just a little conversation that you have with that student, not to forget, or maybe she's nervous. So just a conversation in general. So let's jump into any of these. I'm going to go into math review. And you'll be able to take a quick glance. If you're familiar with Classroom, this should look familiar. You'll be able to see which students have turned them in, which students has it been assigned to but not necessarily turned in, and also who has been graded. You'll see a snapshot here as well. But here's the powerful piece. This Class Insights button. When I click on Class Insights, watch what it shows me. And this is the part up here that I'm really going to focus on during this particular part. It says 2 students got problem number 3 correct. But when I hover on problem number 3, it kind of appears like a smart chip in Google. It's the first thing I thought when I saw it.
Yeah,
but
it does look like that.
Right? If you click on problem 3, it's going to pull up all of your students and how they did on problem 3. Okay, so this is Chantel's work. It'll let me know that Chantel attempted it once, plus 2 more times. If I clicked on plus 2 attempts, I could actually see all of her attempts here. So what great data that you can get from this to see.
What did you give Chantel so that she accommodated you by going in here and getting questions, multiple questions wrong multiple times? Because I know you did something.
I might have sweetly asked them to go in and not get them all right.
It worked. Good job.
It did. I can also come over here and it says Chantel Lott is struggling with many problems. I can click on Chantel, her name. It'll pull up how she did on the entire practice set. And then it also lets me know about students that persevered, if they attempted it multiple times. And maybe this is a message to me as a teacher that that particular concept or topic is something I need to review and go back and see how I address that with my students. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you will see the names of your students here, score, and then you'll see these bubbles. Red means it's been marked incorrect, and then you'll see a darker green and a lighter green. The darker green means they got it correct on the first attempt. The lighter green means they got it correct after 2 or more attempts. So if you see those 2 varying colors in green, that's what that means for that part. And just like any assignment in Google Classroom, you can grade it here. I could even change the total points from here if I needed to, add some private comments, and then return if needed. Now, if you have an assignment that had a paragraph answer in there, when you open up these, you will be able to go in as a teacher, read how they did, and go down here to the bottom right-hand corner, and then mark it correct or incorrect. Okay, so that's the one that you'd have to go back in because it's not auto-graded as they go. But
Amy, I can't believe that our time is almost up today, but it is. Will you go back to the slides and sit on 24 for just a second?
Sure.
Okay, so I want to make sure, because clearly we could talk about this for a whole other hour, and I don't think we could plumb the depths of it even in that time. So I want to make sure that everybody knows what resources you have left with you until, hopefully we see you again. So on slide 24, you're going to have access to a practice sets course from Google that you'll be able to get to right there. You're also going to be able to take a look at sample problems that you can pull into practice sets so you can sort of play around with it and all that. you're here today, so that means you registered for this webinar, and that means that when this webinar is over, you're actually also going to get the video of it. So hopefully there's been great stuff in here today that you want to come back to later. And then, Amy, will you switch to 25? I want to remind everybody too that Google wants your feedback. You guys who have been using Classroom for a long time know that that's how Classroom was developed, through the feedback from people who are actually using the tool. It's why the development trajectory of that tool has been so awesome, and we've all felt so grateful for it. So don't forget, Google actually really does want your feedback. They take every piece of feedback that comes in, they organize it, and someone actually looks at it, and they look at what are people talking about and what do people need from this tool. So I love that about working with Google and about this company. And then I don't want to be the one to wrap this up. I don't have any business doing that. Amy Storer, that job should go to you.
Well, thank y'all so much. I love to share practice sets if you've got questions. Find me on Twitter. I'm now on Twitter. I don't mind answering questions on Twitter if you need some support there. But check out the course. Even if you don't have access to practice sets now, it will simulate the experience for you so you can play around with the features as well. But we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon.
All the Amy's and one of the Jessicas from Fried Tech.
Bye.
Nice to be with you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.